Hollywood's golden age is often remembered as a time of elegance, glamour, and timeless legends. Studio lights shined bright, movie stars were treated like royalty, and audiences believed their heroes were flawless both on and off the screen. But behind the velvet curtains and carefully crafted public images, a darker reality was quietly unfolding. Fame did not always bring discipline, and success did not always bring morality. In fact, some of the biggest stars of classic Hollywood were living lives that clashed sharply with the characters they portrayed. During the 1930s, 40s, and 50s, the studio system worked overtime to protect reputations, bury scandals, and control the press. Yet despite these efforts, certain stories were too serious to stay hidden forever. Arrests, criminal investigations, courtroom trials, and shocking police reports slowly exposed the truth. These were not rumors or gossip, but real incidents documented by newspapers, court records, and historical accounts. In this video, we're taking a careful, factual look at 10 Golden Age stars whose off-screen actions crossed legal boundaries. Some were arrested. Some stood trial. Some served jail time. Others were linked to organized crime, substance violations, or high-profile criminal investigations that changed their lives forever. These cases didn't just damage reputations. They ended careers, altered public perception, and in some cases, rewrote Hollywood history itself. This is not about exaggeration or sensationalism. Every name on this list is connected to real, verified events that shocked the entertainment world of their time. Their stories reveal how power, fame, and privilege often collided with the law, and how even the brightest stars were not above consequences. So stay with us as we uncover the forgotten criminal side of classic Hollywood. The stories studios tried to erase, the scandals fans never expected, and the truth behind the Golden Age legends you thought you knew. Actor number 1, Roscoe "Fatty" Arbuckle. Roscoe "Fatty" Arbuckle was one of the biggest comedy superstars of Hollywood's early Golden Age. At his peak in the 1910s and early 1920s, Arbuckle earned enormous salaries, mentored future legends like Buster Keaton, and was seen as a harmless, joyful entertainer loved by audiences of all ages. His success symbolized the carefree spirit of silent-era Hollywood. But in 1921, everything changed overnight. During a Labor Day weekend party at a San Francisco hotel, Arbuckle became the center of a tragic and shocking incident involving actress Virginia Rappe. After she fell seriously ill and later died, Arbuckle was arrested and charged with manslaughter. The case immediately exploded across national newspapers. Headlines portrayed him as a villain, and public opinion turned against him before the trial even began. Studios cut ties, theaters banned his films, and his name became synonymous with scandal. What followed were 3 separate trials. The first 2 ended without a verdict, as juries failed to agree. In the third trial, Arbuckle was fully acquitted. The jury issued a rare public apology, stating there was no evidence of wrongdoing and that he had been treated unfairly. Despite this legal victory, the damage was irreversible. Hollywood had already moved on. Even though Arbuckle was innocent in the eyes of the law, the studio system refused to forgive him. His films were pulled from circulation, his contracts disappeared, and his once bright career was effectively erased. He later worked behind the camera under a different name, directing films, but never regaining his former fame. Roscoe Arbuckle's story stands as one of the most tragic examples of how a criminal accusation, even without a conviction, could destroy a Golden Age star. It marked the moment Hollywood realized that public image could be more powerful than the truth itself. Actor number 2, Errol Flynn. Errol Flynn was the definition of a Golden Age movie star. Handsome, charismatic, and endlessly confident, he became famous for playing heroic swashbucklers in films like Captain Blood and The Adventures of Robin Hood. On screen, Flynn represented honor and bravery. Off-screen, however, his lifestyle often brought him into serious legal trouble that shocked the public and threatened his career. In 1942, at the height of his fame, Flynn was arrested and charged with statutory rape involving 2 underage girls. The case instantly became one of the most sensational trials in Hollywood history. Newspapers covered every detail, and the public was sharply divided. Some fans defended him fiercely, while others believed his reputation for reckless behavior had finally caught up with him. The trial exposed Flynn's heavy drinking, promiscuity, and disregard for boundaries, damaging his carefully managed studio image. After a highly publicized court battle, Errol Flynn was acquitted of all charges. The jury ruled that the prosecution failed to prove its case beyond reasonable doubt. Legally, Flynn was cleared, but socially and professionally, the impact lingered. The scandal permanently altered how audiences viewed him, and the phrase, "in like Flynn," took on a darker meaning connected to excess and controversy. Although Warner Brothers continued to cast him, Flynn's career never fully recovered its earlier momentum. His performances became less heroic, his roles fewer, and his personal problems more visible. Alcohol abuse and declining health followed him for the rest of his life. Errol Flynn's story shows how even an acquittal could not erase the stain of a criminal trial in Hollywood's golden age. Fame may have protected him from conviction, but it could not shield him from long-term consequences, proving that legal innocence did not always mean public redemption. Actor number 3, Bugsy Siegel. Bugsy Siegel was never a traditional Hollywood leading man, but during the golden age, his presence in the film world was real, influential, and deeply controversial. Siegel appeared in several movies in the 1930s and was closely connected to powerful studio figures, producers, and stars. To the public, he looked like a stylish businessman and socialite moving comfortably through Hollywood's elite circles. Behind the scenes, however, he was one of the most notorious organized crime figures in American history. Born Benjamin Siegel, he rose through the criminal underworld as a key member of organized crime syndicates operating across New York and California. By the time he arrived in Hollywood, Siegel was already linked to bootlegging, gambling operations, and violent criminal activity. Unlike many stars whose crimes surfaced later, Siegel's criminal reputation existed alongside his Hollywood connections. Siegel became deeply involved in developing Las Vegas as a gambling destination, most notably with the Flamingo Hotel. While the project helped shape modern Las Vegas, it was also tied to massive financial losses and criminal disputes. Law enforcement closely monitored his activities, and he was widely known to authorities as a dangerous figure, even if convictions were difficult to secure due to intimidation and lack of cooperation from witnesses. In 1947, Bugsy Siegel was shot and killed in Beverly Hills in what is widely believed to have been an organized crime execution. His death sent shockwaves through Hollywood and exposed just how close the film industry had been to real criminal power during its golden age. Bugsy Siegel's story is unique because he wasn't a star who fell into crime. He was a criminal who moved among stars. His life revealed how glamour, money, and organized crime intersected behind Hollywood's polished image, proving that the golden age wasn't just shaped by studios, but also. Actor number 4, Johnny Stompanato. Johnny Stompanato was not a major movie star, but during Hollywood's golden age, his name became inseparably linked with the film industry through scandal, violence, and organized crime. Known for his connections to the criminal underworld, Stompanato moved within Hollywood circles during the 1940s and 1950s, often appearing alongside famous actors, producers, and studio insiders. His lifestyle represented the dangerous side of fame that studios worked hard to keep hidden. Stompanato was a known enforcer for organized crime, with documented ties to mob figures involved in gambling and extortion. Despite his criminal reputation, he was frequently seen at elite Hollywood parties and became romantically involved with major actress Lana Turner. Their relationship was volatile, marked by public arguments, police involvement, and increasing concern from those around them. The situation drew attention from both law enforcement and the press. In 1958, the situation turned fatal. During a violent domestic dispute at Lana Turner's home, Johnny Stompanato was stabbed and killed by Turner's teenage daughter, Cheryl Crane. The incident led to a highly publicized legal investigation that dominated headlines around the world. After a formal inquiry, the killing was ruled justifiable homicide, and no criminal charges were filed. Although Stompanato himself was no longer alive to face prosecution, the case exposed Hollywood's hidden connections to organized crime and personal violence. Studios scrambled to protect reputations, and the scandal permanently altered public perceptions of Golden Age glamour. Johnny Stompanato's story shows how criminal figures operated close to Hollywood's brightest stars, creating real danger behind the scenes. His life and death remain one of the clearest examples of how crime and celebrity collided during classic Hollywood's most carefully controlled era. Actor number 5, Barbara Payton. Barbara Payton was once seen as one of Hollywood's most promising young actresses during the late Golden Age. With her striking looks and early film success, studios believed she was destined for long-term stardom. She appeared in several notable films and was heavily promoted as a rising talent. However, behind the scenes, her personal life was rapidly spiraling out of control, pulling her into repeated legal trouble and public scandal. Payton's career began to collapse as her struggles with alcohol abuse and unstable relationships became impossible to hide. By the early 1950s, her behavior was frequently making headlines, and police reports replaced film reviews in the press. She was arrested multiple times for disorderly conduct, public intoxication, and disturbing the peace. These were not isolated incidents, but a pattern that showed how deeply her personal problems had taken over her life. Hollywood studios, already nervous about maintaining clean public images, slowly cut ties with her. Roles disappeared, contracts were canceled, and her reputation shifted from rising star to cautionary tale almost overnight. As work dried up, Payton's arrests and legal troubles became more frequent, reinforcing the industry's decision to abandon her. Despite several attempts at rehabilitation and personal recovery, Barbara Payton was never able to reclaim her place in Hollywood. By the late 1950s, she was almost completely removed from the film industry, struggling financially and emotionally. Her tragic decline was widely documented in newspapers and later confirmed through biographies and historical accounts. Barbara Payton's story represents a harsh reality of the Golden Age. When a star fell, there was no safety net. Her criminal arrests were symptoms of deeper issues, but Hollywood judged only the headlines. Actor number 6, Lana Turner. Lana Turner was one of the most glamorous and bankable stars of Hollywood's Golden Age. Known for her beauty, screen presence, and box office power, she represented the ideal studio-crafted image of elegance and success. Unlike others on this list, Turner was never convicted of a crime. However, her life became permanently linked to one of the most infamous criminal investigations in Hollywood history, placing her at the center of a national scandal. In 1958, Turner's personal life collided with tragedy when her boyfriend, Johnny Stompanato, was killed inside her Beverly Hills home. The incident occurred during a violent argument and immediately drew the attention of police, the media, and the public. Turner's teenage daughter, Cheryl Crane, admitted to stabbing Stompanato in what she claimed was an attempt to protect her mother from harm. The case triggered a full legal inquiry and dominated headlines worldwide. Turner was questioned extensively, and her private life was exposed in painful detail. After reviewing the evidence, the court ruled the killing a justifiable homicide. No criminal charges were filed against Turner or her daughter. Legally, the case was closed. Even without a conviction, the scandal deeply affected Turner's career. Studios feared public backlash, and her carefully controlled image was shattered. Yet unlike many others, Turner eventually managed a comeback, returning to major roles and earning critical praise in later films. Her survival in Hollywood was rare for someone associated with such a public criminal investigation. Lana Turner's story highlights how proximity to crime could be as damaging as guilt during the Golden Age. Though she broke no laws, her name became inseparable from a violent event that exposed the fragile nature of fame. It serves as a reminder that in classic Hollywood, even innocence could not guarantee protection from scandal. Actor number 7, Sidney Poitier. Sidney Poitier stands apart from most names on this list. He was not involved in crime for personal gain, violence, or scandal. Instead, his legal trouble came from standing against injustice during one of the most turbulent periods in American history. As a pioneering black actor during Hollywood's late Golden Age, Poitier used his voice and presence to challenge segregation, even when doing so carried real legal risk. In the 1950s and early 1960s, Poitier participated in civil rights protests aimed at ending racial discrimination. During one such protest, he was arrested for a nonviolent act of civil disobedience. The arrest was lawful under the statutes of the time, but it reflected laws that many now recognize as unjust. His action was not a crime of harm, but a deliberate stand against inequality. At a time when studios demanded silence and obedience from their stars, Poitier's arrest placed his career in danger. Hollywood feared controversy, and black actors had far fewer opportunities and protections. Despite this, Poitier refused to retreat. He continued working, choosing roles that carried dignity and moral weight, slowly reshaping how black characters were portrayed on screen. Rather than destroying his career, Poitier's courage strengthened his legacy. He went on to become the first black actor to win the Academy Award for Best Actor, breaking barriers that once seemed unmovable. His arrest, once seen as a liability, later became a symbol of integrity and moral leadership. Sidney Poitier's inclusion in this list is a reminder that not all criminal records are equal. His legal trouble was rooted in justice, not wrongdoing. In the context of Hollywood's golden age, his story proves that sometimes breaking the law was the only way to change it. Actor number 8, Gene Krupa. Gene Krupa was one of the most famous musicians to cross into Hollywood during the golden age. As a legendary jazz drummer and bandleader, his explosive performances made him a national sensation, and his popularity led to film appearances that connected him directly to the entertainment industry. To fans, Krupa represented energy, talent, and modern American music. Offstage, however, his struggles with substance abuse brought him into serious conflict with the law. In 1943, at the height of his fame, Krupa was arrested on drug possession charges. The case quickly became headline news, shocking both the music world and Hollywood. Law enforcement accused him of possessing illegal substances, and he was held in custody while the case moved through the legal system. At a time when drug-related offenses carried heavy stigma and severe consequences, the arrest severely damaged his public image. Krupa was convicted and served time in jail, making his case one of the rare examples of a major entertainment figure actually facing incarceration during the Golden Age. Studios distanced themselves, radio stations stopped playing his music, and many believed his career was finished. The industry moved quickly to erase controversy, leaving little room for redemption. Following his release, Krupa entered treatment and committed himself to recovery. Through discipline and persistence, he slowly rebuilt his reputation, returning to music and eventually regaining respect as an artist. Though his film presence never fully recovered, his musical legacy survived. Gene Krupa's story shows how criminal conviction during Hollywood's classic era often meant total exile. Unlike stars protected by studios, he faced the full weight of the legal system. His fall and recovery reveal both the harshness of the era and the possibility of redemption through accountability and change. Actor number 9, Wallace Reed. Wallace Reed was one of the most beloved leading men of Hollywood's early golden age. Known for his charm, athletic roles, and clean-cut image, Reed was marketed as the perfect American hero. Audiences admired him, studios trusted him, and his career seemed unstoppable. Yet behind the scenes, his life was quietly unraveling due to an addiction that would ultimately destroy his health and career. During the production of demanding action films, Reed suffered serious injuries and was prescribed powerful painkillers. At the time, these substances were legally distributed but poorly regulated. Over time, he developed a dependency that grew increasingly severe. As his addiction worsened, Reed's behavior became erratic, and his ability to work consistently declined. Eventually, his substance use crossed into illegal territory, drawing the attention of authorities and medical institutions. Although Reed was not known for violent crime or public scandal, his dependency on controlled substances placed him in violation of drug laws that were beginning to tighten during the era. His condition became impossible for studios to conceal. In an effort to save his life, Reed was sent to a rehabilitation facility. Sadly, the treatment methods of the time were ineffective and often harmful. In 1923, Wallace Reed died from complications related to his addiction, sending shockwaves through Hollywood. His death forced the industry to confront the dangers of drug dependency and the lack of protections for performers. Wallace Reed's story is tragic because it highlights a hidden form of criminalization during the Golden Age. His crime was addiction in an era that punished illness rather than treating it. Though he was not a traditional criminal, his life was still shaped and ended by laws, substances, and systems that failed to protect him when he needed help most. Actor number 10, Robert Mitchum. Robert Mitchum was one of the toughest, most iconic figures of Hollywood's golden age. Known for his laid-back attitude, deep voice, and morally complex roles, Mitchum built a career playing outlaws, antiheroes, and dangerous men. Ironically, his real-life legal trouble would blur the line between his on-screen persona and reality in a way few studios could control. In 1948, at the height of his fame, Mitchum was arrested on charges of marijuana possession after a police investigation uncovered illegal substances. Unlike many stars whose scandals were quietly buried, this case became public almost immediately. Newspapers across the country reported the arrest, shocking fans who were used to studios protecting their biggest names at all costs. Mitchum was convicted and sentenced to jail time, serving several weeks in a county facility. His mugshot was widely published, making him one of the first major Hollywood stars whose criminal image became part of popular culture. Studios feared backlash, advertisers pulled away, and many believed his career was finished. In the strict moral climate of the late 1940s, drug convictions were seen as career-ending offenses. However, Mitchum's story took an unexpected turn. Instead of destroying his image, the arrest reinforced the rebellious persona audiences associated with him. After his release, he returned to acting and landed some of the most memorable roles of his career, including performances that defined film noir and American cinema. While the conviction was real and legally documented, Mitchum faced consequences without being erased by the industry. His survival was rare and largely due to his unique screen identity, which turned scandal into a strange form of authenticity.